Hey, my friend, it's Dr. Zaino, and today I want to have a real conversation about back pain. I want to talk about the scientific studies of the root causes of back pain and why so many people feel like they tried everything, yet they still wake up in pain. Now, I want to break down all that technical language and mumbo jumbo of those studies and make it very easy to understand, because I know you've probably been there where someone you love has. And the truth is, the way we've been taught to think about back pain is backwards. Totally turn around. So let's just break this down. Chapter 1, the hidden enemy, spinal degeneration. Now, the first study I want to look at is a study published in the Journal of Spine, which found that 40% of 18 to 30-year-olds already had visible disc degeneration. And by the age of 50 or 55, it was over 90%. And these weren't patients complaining of back pain. It was just regular people. Now, another published review of thousands of spinal images by orthopedic surgeons showed that 37% of 20-year-olds and 80% of 50-year-olds showed visible disc degeneration. And what these studies are describing, the first and most important thing, an obvious cause of back pain, which is degeneration. Now, I want you to imagine your spine like a stack of marshmallows. Marshmallow sandwiches and graham crackers, right? Like a s'more, sort of like a really tall, multi-layered s'more. Now, the graham crackers are the vertebrae, the bones. And the marshmallows, those are your discs. They cushion, they absorb that shock, and they allow movement. Now, what happens when those marshmallows start to dry out? They shrink, they crack, pressure increases, and the whole stack starts to lean and bulge and pinch on different sides. That's spinal degeneration. Degeneration, and it's not just an old person's problem. Why is that important? Because degeneration is silent, okay? Until it isn't. It's like rust forming on the inside of a pipe. It's hidden, it's slow, but eventually catastrophic when that pressure builds up. Now remember, not everyone who has degeneration in the discs of their spine is in pain. It could be asymptomatic. These studies sampled the general population, but when researchers also cross-referenced their results with the pain evaluation, they found a significant correlation between degeneration and back pain. See? So when there's degeneration involved, that's when the pain happens. So one study showed a significant correlation between disc degeneration and back pain. So in a separate study of over 2,600 people, they found that when someone had 2 or more degenerated discs, the chances of chronic back pain skyrocket, okay? So from my own clinical experience and having looked at thousands of spinal images, I can't recall a single chronic back pain case that did not involve disc degeneration. Now, like I said, there is no guarantee you will feel pain if you have degeneration. But if degeneration is present, and then you add stress to that, an injury, poor posture, or even just time, it's like tossing gasoline on a slow-burning fire. Chapter 2, the fire inside, inflammation. Now let's talk about inflammation. You see, the body's inflammation is like your body's fire alarm. Inflammation is the second root cause of back pain. Imagine, have you ever twisted your ankle or sprained your ankle? What happens? You twist it, you sprain it, then what happens? It swells, right? It gets hot, it gets red, and it gets very painful. That's inflammation right there, right? So that's your inflammation rushing in. Your spine works the same way. When a disc bulges, or the disc even tears, your immune system sends in a chemical called TNF, alpha tumor necrosis factor, alpha. It's a long word, I know. So just think TNF alpha. It's like an emergency response crew, except sometimes they do more harm than good. In one landmark study, researchers introduced the TNF alpha into the spinal environment of rats. So what happened? The nerves stopped working properly, okay? So that's what happens. They develop measurable dysfunction, actual neuropathy of that area. So follow-up studies confirmed it, that the same chemical that when introduced in vitro, or basically in a petri dish, showed reduced nerve conductivity. So in simple terms, inflammation disrupts your body's wiring. So even if the disc injury doesn't really pinch a nerve directly, the inflammation alone can create burning, tingling, or even that radiating pain down to the leg and to the limbs. It's like electrical wires that get wet, sparks start to fly, the signal gets distorted, things start to shut down. Chapter 3, the forgotten ritual, spinal hygiene. Now for the third piece of this puzzle, and this one gets overlooked the most, it's something I call spinal hygiene. I mean, think about it. Like, we brush our teeth twice a day. You floss, you rinse, But what do you actually do to care for your spine, right? Most people sit for 6 to 10 hours a day on a computer or hunching, and we're scrolling. And we're stressed. We have the tension in our neck and our stretch in our back. And over time, we lose what? We lose motion where we need it the most. One study published in 2023 found that people with decreased spinal movement had higher levels of back pain, while those who moved more experienced less. Another showed that even aerobic exercise, like walking or doing the treadmill, had significant benefits for chronic pain sufferers. It improves circulation, mobility, your mood, and even another study showed that specific spinal stabilization exercises have been shown to improve both pain levels and function. So basically, what this tells us is as long as you move your spine in a certain way, in a certain amount, it stays much healthier. Movement is medicine when it comes to your spine, and spinal hygiene is like brushing your teeth, except for your nervous system. If you ignore it, guess what? Problems will accumulate. So stay on top of it and stay resilient. Chapter 4, why standard treatments don't work. So now that we know what really causes back pain, let's talk about typical treatments used to treat back pain, or why they do or they don't work. Injections. Let's start with spinal injections, specifically steroid or corticosteroid injections. Now, I'm going to go read directly from the FDA website. So this is right from the FDA website. They say most spinal injections are not FDA approved for chronic back pain. They aim to reduce inflammation, but they don't address the degeneration or mobility issue. So relief is usually temporary, and often it's going to wear off. So to look at a couple studies, a review of 30 different studies. Now I'm glancing at, concluded that the pain relief from the corticosteroids was temporary and produced similar results to a placebo. It also stated that the benefits were below important clinical thresholds. So additionally, no long-term benefits were observed from these injections. Chiropractic care. Now let's take a look at chiropractic. The positive that chiropractic has going for it is that it does in fact introduce movement into the joints of the spine. Now, as we looked at earlier, spinal hygiene, or the lack of it, is one of the root causes of your pain. This is likely why many people benefit from chiropractic care, specifically for back pain. Now, there are two significant drawbacks with chiropractic care. Though, when it comes to back pain, the first is that chiropractic can't regenerate discs. In fact, if degeneration is bad enough, chiropractic care can actually be really painful. Now, the second drawback is that if chiropractic adjustments are what you rely on to get your spinal hygiene and keep everything moving, you will require to continue seeing chiropractors indefinitely, okay? It'd be like going to the dentist to clean your teeth every single day, right? You have to learn how to do this stuff at home and part of your lifestyle. So for me, there's no denying the evidence that chiropractic helps with back pain, but you just have to keep the drawbacks in mind as well. Let's talk about surgery, okay? If you know anyone who has had back surgery, then you probably know that person is constantly still in pain and has severe lack of mobility. Now, unfortunately, there are over 1 million spinal surgeries in the United States every single year, and failed back surgeries are so common that there is now a medical term called failed back surgery syndrome, okay? Now, the first study I looked at stated that over 50% of initial surgeries are successful, but less than 30% are successful for a second surgery, less than 15% for third surgeries, and less than 5% for the fourth surgery. That's just not good enough. Even if the best case number in that scenario is over 50%, that doesn't sound like a very good odds, right? Imagine you're about to get cut on and it's a 50-50 chance that you might have to go back and be in pain the rest of your life. That's not to mention being on pain management and opioids for the rest of your life. That's still considered a successful back surgery, meaning that the surgery went, you're still in a lot of pain, but they're just gonna give you a bunch of opioids and drugs and make you an addict. That's considered successful, okay? Now, the same study, it also mentioned that for workers who had been injured and been referred to surgery, 76% who received spinal fusion surgery never returned to work. Now, that's not good. Ultimately, it's probably obvious why surgery isn't very helpful. Now, a spinal fusion surgery literally takes the degenerated discs, right? Cuts the disc completely out of the spine, then fuses the two bones together. Surgery removes tissue. It doesn't restore it. So obviously, it's going to cause a lack of range of motion. When you no longer can move and when you no longer have a joint where there used to be one, but obviously there's going to be a cascade of issues from that whole mess in surgery as well. But here's the thing, it does nothing to actually solve the problem. It's just masking it. Finally, let's look at physical therapy. It's important to point out that physical therapy does help, okay? We know it does help. We've looked at previous studies which show spinal stabilization exercise. It definitely decreases back pain. The issue with physical therapy, though, is it only addresses one of the 3 root causes, spinal hygiene. It can't actually do anything about the degenerated discs or the inflammation, which is usually present in that area. So the question then becomes, if all of the most common methods for treating your back pain don't really permanently solve the issue, then what does work? There definitely are ways of solving it. In the next video, we will talk about the cutting-edge science proving that discs can in fact be regenerated. Inflammation can be taken care of, an appropriate amount of spinal hygiene can be maintained to produce long-term healing and pain-free results. See, it's not about silencing the pain, it's about removing the reasons pain exists. Thanks for watching today. I'm Dr. Zaino, and I'll see you in the next video.